Hey everybody, what's going on? It is James here with Crypto Common Sense, and in today's video we're going to talk about trading, we're going to talk about the math behind trading, and more specifically we're going to talk about the required reward to risk that you should be looking for when taking trades. So I did a poll on social media, I also did a poll inside of my private Discord, and I wasn't surprised to see that most people actually got the answer wrong to the poll, and I think part of the problem is people like me. That's going to sound kind of funny, but over the last few years, I've really pushed this idea that, you should be trading at least a 2-to-1 system. And I think that, in all fairness, what happens is people don't understand that it's a general rule of thumb. It doesn't actually mean that every single trade works that way. And it also has to do with the fact that I'm coming up on 6 years as a trader, and every year I change. Every year I get better. Every year I look at things that are working, I try to do more of that. Every year I look at things that aren't working, I try to do less of that, obviously. And so I evolve as a trader. And there was a time where I didn't use reward to risk at all, right? That's kind of early in the journey. And then there was a time when I started using just strictly 2-to-1. And then there's a time when I started trying to ride trades more. But overall, most of my videos in the past have talked about either a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 type of system. And so when people answered it, a lot of people answered it that way. But the reality is your reward to risk depends entirely on the type of trade you're taking and the expected win rate. So we're going to talk about that in this video, and I'm going to show you some things. I'm going to show you how you can still remain consistent while not always using the same reward to risk. So in this hypothetical example, right, we're going to take somebody that has a nice round number, $100,000 account. It doesn't matter, just again, for easy math. We're going to say that each of these accounts is risking 1% per trade, so $1,000 risk per trade. And we're going to say that on the left side, this person's taking trades with a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, or really it's reward risk. I never have understood why people call it risk reward. It's 2 reward, 1 risk. So let's go ahead and punch it in there. We'll say they're winning 40% of their trades, right? And this is what I love about a 2-to-1 system, because you can lose more than you win and still make money. Let's say that on average this person's a day trader. Maybe they're taking 40 trades a month. You can take more than that, right? It's just 40 is a nice round number. So 40 trades a month. So 16 wins, 24 losses. And at the end of that month, they would be up about 8R. Now that's huge, right? That's really, really good. There are people that do better than that. But if you are consistently making 8R a month, depending on your trade budget, I would imagine you'd be pretty darn happy with that result, okay? So what if that same trader took 40 trades, but instead of winning 40% of the time, and instead of risking, 1 to make 2, they were doing a 1-to-1 system? Well, obviously, if they won 40% of the time, they'd be losing a bunch of money. But the reality is this. In the past, I've talked about how you have a 50-50 chance of the market going up or going down. And I think because of the way I've explained that, some people have taken that to mean you have a 50-50 chance of being right or wrong, but that's not true. If you're trading a 2-to-1 system, you don't have a 50-50 chance, because it has to go twice as far to be right as it has to go to be wrong. So you're actually going to be at a disadvantage as far as the percent that you win by default, just by guessing. On the flip side, if you look at a 1-to-1 system, you really do have a 50-50 shot, because it's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And if your amounts are the same, it's basically you're starting from this level of even guessing with enough trades, you should be able to win 50% of the time, which would be break even, right? Minus fees, slippage, things like that. Okay, so how many trades could you actually win trading 1-to-1? Well, it depends entirely on the trader, obviously, but there are people out there who win 70 and 80% of the time, some probably even more, if they're trading a 1-to-1 system. So for easy math, not to get too crazy here, let's say that we put a 70% win rate on that 1-to-1. Well, if you look, that 1-to-1 trader is actually making double what that 2-to-1 trader is. And if that 2-to-1 trader was trading 3-to-1, maybe their win rate dropped a little bit, down around 35%. Now these two are basically even. So you got one trader that wins, about a third of the time, another trader that wins 2/3 of the time, but they end up with roughly the same return. Now again, this is not taking into account fees and slippage and things like that. Okay, so the reason I'm pointing all this out is because, again, there's not a right answer. There's not a magical, you have to do this or you have to do that. You can make 1-to-1 work. You can make 0.5 to 1 work. I'm not a big fan of that personally. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. I'm at least a 1-to-1 kind of guy. You can trade both 3 to 1, 2 to 1, 1 to 1. You can trade all these things and still be consistent, because it might be that when you're taking a trend trade, right, where you're going with the trend, you might say, hey, I'm early in the trend, and when I get in early in the trend, I want to go for at least 3 to 1. And then every single time you see that, that's what you do. So you're consistent because you're always taking 3 to 1 when you're early in a trend. It might be that when you are still believing in the trend, but you're later in the trend, you might say, hey, I'm only going to do 2 to 1 because this trend is a little overextended. And if you do that every single time you see a trend that's overextended, then you'll be consistent. And you might also see scalp opportunities where you're fighting the trend, but you think you can get in and make a quick buck. And on those, it's much more difficult to make 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 because you're asking it to fight the trend to get to your target. And so on those, you might say, I'm going to do 1 to 1. And then you do 1 to 1 on every single scalp. And at the end of the year, let's just say for easy math, you've got say 500 trades, and maybe you got 150, roughly 150 of each. We'll say 450 trades, right? Well, if you do 3 to 1 on all the 150 that are this way, and you do 2 to 1 on the 150 that are this way, and you do 1 to 1 on the 150 that are this way, at the end of the year, you will still be consistent. Okay, it's not like you're just jumping all over the place randomly. Well, I feel good about this, so I'll do this, or I feel bad, or I'm in a weird mood, so I'll do this. Those things are not consistent because they're based on emotions. But if you have a system that specifically lays out the type of reward you want to go for based on the type of trade that you're entering, you can actually improve your success. Okay, so again, video's getting a little bit long, so we'll wrap up there. Please remember, I am just some guy. I'm sitting in a spare bedroom. That means that nothing in this video is financial advice. You should always go out and do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, Forex, or any other tradable assets. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, as always, this is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you to please trade safe.